and apologize. The voice is still holding us back. Um, and or when we have a client in crisis, that's just, it's happening every now and again where we can't make it live. So thanks for showing up tonight for our Wednesday night's marriage and deadbed truths. So excited to be here again. And we have a few good hot topics for you today. But as always, please bring your questions because it's way more fun when we're getting right to what you need. Now, one thing we want to address right away is, hey, we were going to do that Sunday night sex show, and what we decided was not a good idea because, with my Instagram being removed, disabled, having to start a new one, and then with Facebook restricting us, there's still five more sleeps, and then we're back to the top of the feed again. So hang in there. We're doing our best. As always, please save, share, and comment. That will help us get the word out. So we wanted to get into it a little bit today. First things first. I switched the website over. I really thought it was important. We're gaining enough traction, gaining enough popularity with your help, with help of everybody supporting what we started here and how we have this new idea for marriage and new solutions that people should just grab onto because society has led people the wrong way. And how do we know that? Divorce is disgusting. 50% rate, 70% if you count second and third marriages, and it's climbing every year. And so we appreciate all support. We are rocking and rolling, and we are going to really push away from, hey, you want more sex with your wife? And I'm sure a lot of you watching have noticed that. Really try to inspire a little bit more of what men are feeling, what women are feeling. And we really wanted to try to do that because the amount of men that come to me, mostly from TikTok, YouTube, or the old Instagram, and they're terrified that they could even ask for help because they think that their wife would be like, oh, he's just going to want sex, because they're not seeing past that first line. And then, of course, I know that with almost, 130,000 followers that are women, 120, I can't remember, that are women on Facebook, you guys are seeing past that. You're saying, well, yeah, duh, and that's just a benefit. That it's racing stripes on the car, icing on the cake, or whatever. But what we did was we changed the website. And what we did is we made it look more about men, women, the conflicts that you have, of course, if there's a sex issue, then that's included as well. The basic problems that most people are going through, even the one person being in and not the other, and it's very simplified. And the reason we did that is because we're not here to complicate. We're getting so many people coming and asking for help, and we want to be able to just get right to what your version of the story is. Because as you know, I'm sure by now, that we believe it's a different story for everybody. Some might be similar, but it's the same symptoms and therefore the same treatments. Our treatments are just different than everybody else's. And so what we would like to do is encourage you. You'll notice it says right on there, we're only accepting 23% of people into our programs. That's not anything to do with anything except for, are you a good fit? That's it. And the reason that's so important to us is if you haven't figured it out, we want to flip divorce statistics. So a lot of times we'll get on a call with somebody and we can't accept them in our program. They're just too angry at their partner. I even send out an automated message after you book an appointment that says, you understand there's no bitching about your wife. Like that, I'm that firm. If you're feeling that way, if you're a woman and want to join Catherine's program and you just want to be angry, then you're not in a position where you're ready to learn the skills to move forward. It doesn't mean you couldn't. But the idea is we're not going to get on that call and start it with the negative tone, okay? And that would go the same for men. And so it's very simple. We're just getting bombarded with my chat widget, getting messages, our DMs coming in, and it's all about, costs of the program. What are the details of the program? Do you have multiple options? Listen, if you're not a good fit, we don't really have time to message hundreds and hundreds of people. We just want to know. We'll take the time to find out if you're a good fit. So please respect that. And we'll rock and roll. Okay.
Speaking of, us being so cut and dry with, what we expect from our clients. I talked to a new client yesterday or the day before, and I'm pretty candid about, what my expectations are, and that, we're not going to sit in pain, and we're not going to blame your husband, and you're going to own, if you're a bitch, you're going to own that you're a fucking bitch. And I say things like that. And the more comfortable I am, the better the rapport is, the more I can say things like that. And the woman said, wow, this has been so refreshing. Are all your coaches going to bring the big guns? I really needed that today. And so we tell it like it is, and we set the expectations because, and I mean, if you don't speak like that, I won't necessarily speak like that to you. I'm not always that harsh, but we are, pretty firm about our expectations. And if you're being a bitch, then you have to stop being a bitch. And if you're blaming your husband, you have to stop blaming your husband.
And this goes for men too.
He will be
Yeah,
held accountable.
yeah.
We will take care of him, just like
I had a guy.
women will be held accountable too. But that's just not how
Yeah.
it starts.
Yeah, I had a guy in my program, and he wants to start giving his wife some apologies. That's one of the things that we might get to, depending on the situation, actually. And what he just like he's full on following whatever advice that she wants to give him to save this marriage. But they're at the point where it hasn't worked for a long time. He's not even able to do what she's saying, and so I just literally I say it like it is. I call him out. Well, dude, I told you this, and this, and you didn't do any of that. What about your own ideas? Did you do this? And this went on for like weeks. And so to the point where he started playing a bit of a victim, saying, "Well, I'm going to stay out of the group for a little bit and just be quiet with my camera off on the coaching calls." And I just called him out on it. You're being a fucking bitch. You're being victim. Now you're just scared to own yourself and learn because you're being called out. So it's not that I'm name calling. What I'm trying to say is like we're just firm. We just know what works. And if you want to be validated for all the pain that you've got, there's some space for that. Absolutely. Lots of times I say to my guys, "Hey, buddy, like obviously that's frustrating and that's hard. But at the same time, we have designed our programs to move people forward." Somebody said we've had 2 counselors quit on us. This is why we're particular. We don't want to quit on you.
And Megan responded. So Megan actually was in my program, and now she coaches for me. And she said, "Tell Facebook user my marriage therapist fired me as well."
It's very
And
common.
now she graduated from my program and she's coaching for me.
It's very common. The difference with most people that are out there is they'll take your money and then they'll fire you. What we'll do is we'll find out if you're a good fit. And that doesn't mean come on the call and pretend like everything's hunky-dory so that you're ready to take your blame. It doesn't mean that you don't feel like you're ready and then we get some bumps in the road. But when you come on the call and you just want like I remember when I was new to this and everybody's just like hours and hours on the phone, hey? I would just listen to people bitch.
A 30-minute call would be 2 hours for you.
Yeah, like that's how much we care. A 30-minute call would be 2 hours. We have to cut that short. Okay. So it's the same thing with your comments on Facebook, guys. It's not that it's not that I'm ignoring them. If you've been following for a while, I tried to hit every comment. Well, now there's just so many that I can't. So that's why it's more appropriate to learn and then take the step. If you're on the website and you're ready to take the step, just book the call. Why are you asking a bunch of questions? You're either ready or you're not. So a lot of times I don't even respond to that anymore. It's just so much effort. And we have to put our time where people are going to help us flip divorce statistics, i.e. our reputation, i.e. what our purpose is for here. So I hope that makes sense. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
I don't think so.
No?
But
Okay.
Facebook user, I just thought I'd say hi. We can't see your name. And also the person that said we've had 2 marriage counselors quit. Are you up for the challenge? First of all, yes, we are, but we do need to talk to you first. And we can't see your name.
Yeah, it's weird when I don't really understand it. There's another service we have to try. Anybody's good at this, DM me. All right. So, if nobody has any questions, what I'd like to do is talk about one reel. I've only ever had one reel that did really well on lots of different platforms. And that was the 4 stages of marriage. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to just kind of shoot a little bit of information more in depth about that. This is not something that Catherine and I have ever talked about. It's something that I got inspired from that actually another buddy of mine, influencer, showed me. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then I spin everything into my own way, or it's my mistakes. And this one was a good example of my mistakes. And don't let me forget that we'll talk about that a little bit. So basically, the 4 stages of marriage, the beginning is the honeymoon phase and you're super excited. And the second phase is when you start hurting each other and you're inflicting pain and the wounds start to open everything up. And this is you bringing your old trauma in. And also a lot of people don't realize, I'm sure you've heard of this before. Oh, they should have cleaned up their baggage, blah, blah, blah. People neglect the baggage that they've given their spouse. People neglect the damage and the wounds that they've inflicted on their spouse. And this goes both ways. And it's one of my pet peeves out there, because if you can't understand that from stage 2, well, you can't get properly into stage 3, which is the one I really want to talk about the most, but I'll come back to it. So stage 3 is when you work on yourself in and out of the marriage. You work on yourself, not the 2 to tango shit. That stuff comes with stage 4, where you are living in harmony, where you are growing together, where you are constantly moving together in an upward and forward motion. Now, the reason why I want to stop at stage 3 and elaborate is because on every platform, everybody either identified what stage they're in and sitting in pain, or saying, I've been stuck in whatever stage for so long. Or one of the most common questions was actually how long do each stages last? And specifically, people were worried about 3, and they would add in something like, well, how long does stage 3 last? Because I feel like I've been in it forever. Listen, stage 3 should last forever. We're doing like 4 courses together, and individual, sorry, 4 courses, each on our own and 2 together. Like at least right now. Yeah. Like we're constantly trying to improve and grow. And, the idea about that is you should never be done growing, right? And you should be never done growing together. And that's where it starts to become an issue. So it's not the pain. We firmly believe that in stage 2, you've caused enough pain to your partner that you better get to stage 3 with or without your partner. And then you start to inspire, lead, ask, and then maybe lay some boundaries and never ultimatums, right? If you're getting to the boundary stage and you've done all the other stuff, that's only because you've already shown up. You shouldn't even ask actually, unless you've already been in stage 3 for a while. My guys, I say like 60 to 90 days minimum. And then I ask questions when we're coaching. I'm like, how much do you love her? How long have you been married? How long was the bad shit? How bad was the bad shit? I was willing to wait a lot longer. And then Catherine, when she started doing a lot more work, then I got angry for a while again, and she was willing to wait for me. And then we started to work together, and there was this push pull, which is why our programs work separately and why we focus me on men, Catherine on women, and we don't do the whole bring you together. We let you come together. Oh, sounds hot. Anyway, so what I want you to understand is this: there is no definite amount of time for each stage. I mean, we were married in the first 30 days, and then we had the honeymoon phase intertwined with stage 2 for years. Okay, years. And then really we would grab on to the honeymoon stage, but like we couldn't hang on. It was back to stage 2, And then there was this stage 3 thing that went on. And
bad.
I'm very adamant about saying, we've been awesome for the last 4 years. That's because I can reflect and look at the positive. We stopped fighting for, from every single day, being mad for angry for 3 days to making the gaps 3 days a week longer. Sure, we'd have a big blow up again. But that's major progress, like major, because it was violent in our house. Okay. And so each of you will have a different story with those stages. But when you enter stage 3, I want you to understand this is a lifetime journey. And
Pause.
yeah,
You entered stage 3
Mhm.
4 years ago. That's why the 4-year mark rings true for
That's
you.
right. Yes.
And I was still not. He was making changes, but it wasn't enough for me. So he was in stage 3, trying to work on himself. But honestly, our marriage was so bad that even with him working on himself, I was too damaged and too hurt to accept those changes.
Mhm.
And so I didn't enter stage 3 until 2020, 2 years later. And then he was backsliding because I didn't accept any of his changes. So that's that back and forth that he's talking about. But that's why it seemed like it was so much better 4 years ago. And for me, from my position, it wasn't until 2020.
That's right. It's exactly true. And like, if you understood more of our first 2 stages, right? I mean, there was the restraining order in there. Well, and Catherine actually just reminded me of this a few weeks ago, I think. And it was like, she thought I was on good behavior because I had to be on good behavior, or else
He was on probation for 12 months.
That's right.
So I thought that he wasn't being nice to me because he loved me. I thought he was being nice to me because if I called the police, he would immediately go to jail for 90 days.
Yeah, it was 90
potentially
days.
even
Yeah,
longer.
That's right.
And so I didn't believe a lot of his changes because I thought it was because he was on probation.
That's right. So what I want you to understand is it's an up and down. And the reason why my mind moves forward is because it is the fastest way to move my men forward rather than focusing on the past. And Catherine does something similar in her program, just with different ways, right? And so when you own that you're in that stage, again, you inspire, then you lead because you've inspired long enough, you're just automatically leading. And then you don't even get to ask if you haven't been leading with everything. One of the reasons why it was so hard for Catherine to accept the changes was because, like I say, you can't show up at the track unless you have all the parts under the hood. Like, what's this crap? I'm going to learn a few communication skills. Good. That's great. What about the rest? What about I'll give you an example. I had a guy today talking about how his wife, he came to me the next day, his wife to serve endorse his papers. Okay. And so like he just found out one of the reasons was he kind of forced a sexual act that was pretty rough on her. And also at the time he had already known about trauma with the same sexual act when she was younger or a child or something like this. Right. Well, this makes it really difficult. So great, you got communication skills, but if you don't know how to deal with trauma and effectively, accept your ownership there. And now start stacking them, guys. And we could do this all freaking day. So you can't show up at the track. You can't bake a cake unless you have all the parts, all the ingredients, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So when you have all the ingredients, then you show up. And now you can see a lot of great things. Oh, I should give you one more thing about that. The reason why is this. So I was making a lot of changes with my anger. She's still triggered thinking I'm going to yell. And sometimes I did backslide and yell, right? So then if I'm not doing that, plus she's remembering how I was in love one day and angry for 3 days the next day, all these other things that we teach. Well, even the good stuff makes the bad stuff look like shit, meaning the stuff you're doing right means why the fuck aren't you doing the rest of it then? Or if it's too little, too late, and all these sorts of things. Okay. So that's why stage 3 can take a while. And like I said earlier, like some of my guys, I have a guy, his wife is being hard on him. I actually feel like he's me, and his fiance, I was going to say ex, his fiance is a lot like Catherine was. And when we talk, he's just like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. Well, he loves her. He wants to keep his family together. And she's coming around slowly, right? And then when you both are doing the same thing, you will both make mistakes. We still make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. That's why we continue to try to grow, lead each other.
That's one of the most important pieces, is that once you learn the skills, once you have all the parts under the hood, it doesn't mean that you don't forget to put gas in your car. Like you have
life happens.
You have weaknesses, but when you learn the skills, and the way that I teach the skills, we drill it into you. We role play. We're there to support you. So we teach you how to handle it. So it doesn't mean that, we don't have our issues, because we do, but we love each other and we have the skills to move forward, and the cycle gets smaller. So that cycle of where we used to fight every day, sometimes more than once a day, or we'd get in a big fight and then he wouldn't speak to me he would yell at me or not speak to me. It was a combination of
both.
Lecture. For hours. Yeah. Like I'm talking like 14 hours being yelled and lectured at for 14 hours straight. And
you guys think you have problems? Seriously.
It was bad. It was really, really bad. But then that cycle would get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And so you'll always have a cycle. There will always be conflict that comes up. And then there's also things that you'll get triggered by outside things that have nothing to do with your marriage, and it'll cause you to have a fight in your marriage. And so, but that cycle should be smaller, where then you can step back the next day and say, that was really shitty of me. I shouldn't have done that. Or can we talk about this? And there's, conflict resolution strategies and conflict interventions that you can use to repair what happened. Whereas before, if you don't know how to repair it and you sweep it under the rug, it just piles up and piles up and piles up and piles up.
Explosion.
Until it explodes.
Yeah. Well, which is a lot more of your MO. And then
that was exactly my MO. I was afraid of you. So I didn't bring anything up. I didn't want to bring up any conflict because it wasn't well received.
That's right.
So I would rather bury it under the rug until I blew up. And then we were both acting like psychos.
100%. Yeah. And that's what I think it's a good segue into, a lot of the comments that come in. It's like, sure, there's angry men. And there's a lot of wives like, I wish more men would see this. Hey, listen, the men are not going to comment and say, which is one reason why it's great to change the format of the content a little bit, but they're not going to come out and say, yeah, I'm not having sex. They're going to call it, like, they're going to call me if they want to call me, right? They're going to try to talk quietly about it because it's kind of embarrassing when you're connecting the dots that way. So it's one of the reasons why we're changing the content. But there is a lot of people that follow, watch, or just, actually, just so you know, it's like 96% of the content is viewed by new people, not followers. This I think it's normally 2% for influencers or creators.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And so, sorry, not 2%, the other way. It's 98%. So it'll be 2% new people, followers, sorry. So yeah, people are going through the content and they're thinking like, well, how, like, I lost my thought here. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. Because I started doing math in my head.
Yeah. I'm not sure where we're going with it.
Yeah. What the heck was I doing?
I don't remember.
I gotta start making notes.
No, usually you're so good.
So I believe I was going out with people are wondering, like, why is there not enough of good, like the right people?
Oh, you were talking about men aren't going to come out because they're not going to come to you and say we're not having sex.
Yeah. And women are coming out and saying like, this is everything that I need, like my man to hear, or this is why I got divorced, or like you get it, you're women. And I have this joke that I speak women. Well, I speak man too. That's the reason why I speak differently to men. And
I taught you how to speak woman.
You did. Yeah. When I met you, it was like grade 8 woman at the gym.
You used to say that you spoke fluent woman, And as we got to know each other very well, then you were like, oh my gosh, I don't speak woman.
Yeah. And then, so one of the reasons why I'm able to put the pieces together is because I had a good background. And with well, it's another story, but so I did have a lot of experience. I just didn't put the pieces together until it was almost too late, kind of embarrassing, right? So when you guys are getting upset about who's seeing what and where it's going, the best way to help is to save the reels, share the content, and understand that Instagram was doing better with men and then they shut us down. Now we have a new one. We'll have to build it again. YouTube's mostly men. TikTok is mostly men. So it's like it's reaching the people. The reason where I really want to go with this is a lot of people are like, well, how do I get this in front of my spouse? Right. The end of the day, you're gonna have a tough time. And Catherine, I thought of this was because with the voice problem, I'm gonna get some of my other old reels that did really well to come back out because a lot of you wouldn't have seen them. And one of them is talking about how Catherine said I didn't even understand why I didn't want him anymore, right? But what she says in there is that, but I ended up telling him. And as she did, it was, I'm not attracted, I'm not in love, I'm settling. I'm only here for the commitment and my oath under God. And, that's hard. So all of you that have been asking, like, how do I get this from my husband? Well, yeah, I was angry for days and it might be scary for you. I'm sure it was scary for you,
I
but
was pregnant when we had that conversation.
Yeah. So
it's terrifying.
But if you don't, you stay where you are.
Yeah. Nothing will get better if you don't let the problems surface.
Driven, all three of you are. What was that? What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go. I don't know, beyond driven. Maybe you're talking about us and then this other beyond driven person. Maybe. Not sure.
And beyond driven. Probably beyond driven is another video.
Mm-hmm.
I watch one of your videos nightly, and beyond driven. All three of you are great.
Oh, well, thank you.
Maybe she knew you from before, and that's one of your other personalities.
Could be. We used to joke of like 7,
15.
All of them. Yeah, they're all mine. Yeah. So the other thing that you can do is if you're,
it, though.
Of course,
yeah.
Why wouldn't you? So first thing is hard conversations. If you're not happy, it's time to say, I'm not happy. I found somebody who can translate for me. That's specifically for women. Men, if you're not happy and you're understanding, most guys that come to me, what do they say? It's like you're in my head. That's because I'm not afraid to admit my mistakes. Oh, and there's the real punchline that I was trying to go with it is this. These reels are all my mistakes. That's it. So even if I'm inspired, like I mentioned earlier, from something a friend sends me, because I don't go on social media except to post or comment back to you guys. And so I just think social media is a joke, ironically, because you guys find us there. But all of this is my shit. So these victim men that are like so upset and blah, blah, blah. Here's one. I'm talking about the difference between arousal and desire. Like it doesn't get more clear than that. I.e., if she doesn't desire, she doesn't want you. And the guy's comments coming on this reel, like,
so defensive.
We signed up. I mean, I'm supposed to provide. So what she better do her job. It was marriage. What happened to equality of the sexes? What the F are you missing here? She can just lay there. But then I responded with, you know what? You can go get a blow up doll. They sell them online. I hear the robots are great. Like, come on, man. Like maybe in 20 years, probably less, the robots will be a lot better. I don't really know, but if you love someone, a robot's not going to give you that. So you can So focus on what you want. If you want a sex doll, go get one, right? If you want to not talk to anybody, like I'm just going to say this, is a lot of women who like to just shut down, then have a conversation with the wall. Like we got to have those hard conversations, guys. It sucks. That's what we can help you with. Okay. But otherwise, you got to take a step. Sitting in your pain is not working. Going to a sexless marriage group, married but I feel alone group, whatever.
You're going to just let other people encourage you to bitch and
100%
cheer other people on for bitching while you sit in your horrifyingly sexless marriage.
Yeah. And it's not fun. Like, take it from us. We know. And, Catherine just got somebody whose wife was like all over Reddit and stuff like that and doing whatever. And I get guys like that all the time. And we had this big talk about on our coaching call today. The difference with the men now not wasting time on shit like that. it's like night and day. They can change everything overnight. That's the whole goal of the program. For me, that's what I say. You're a brand new guy overnight. And like, I don't know why you'd want to sit in your pain. So you can, I'm glad that you're on our social media and you're learning and you're appreciating, but think about where you're actually trying to go. Not saying don't follow, please, continue to learn and all that stuff. But remember, at some point you're going to have to take a step if you actually want it, whether that's with us or not, right? Somebody like us and Beyond Driven, maybe it's with Beyond Driven. I don't know who that is. Maybe they're great. I don't really know because I don't go on social media and read a lot of their posts and reels and stuff. But you got to take a step at some point, okay? Now, there was some good comments here, of course. What about a spouse who shuts down and won't discuss anything without getting abusive? I'm going to say this doesn't matter to me if it's any abuse, whether that's emotional, verbal, physical, scare the fuck out of you, almost physical, whatever. Well, I think there's many ways to take it, but the bottom line for me is that if they feel like they have to shut down or get abusive, then we're not owning our side, right? They feel like they're having to defend themselves. So in our programs, we teach you to act as though like you've done everything wrong. Now, is this a forever thing, guys? No, that would be a shitty way to live too, right? But it does allow you to train yourself to think before you speak, lead with empathy, take time to process before you have a conversation, right? And that would just be like a foundation.
Also, pause for a second. Alex is a woman there. So, not that it matters who's abusing, but I just wanted to pop in because there are different types of abuse. And I don't do a lot of coaching on these calls. I will give little tidbits, but I don't do a lot of coaching. I would need to know exactly what that means. But if your husband is physically abusing you, then my advice is for you to get yourself safe and leave, period. Not to try to bend over backwards and own anything. If your husband is getting abusive when you try to talk to him, you need to get yourself safe, whatever safe looks like for you.
100%. Now, Jennifer, or somebody said, "Hey, Jennifer." So I don't know if that is Jennifer.
Jennifer must be one of the Facebook users.
Maybe. I wish my husband would watch with me. He said people need to mind their own business. So here's an example of what we were just talking about. Okay. So normally your direct response would be something like, well, they are minding their own business. We'd be watching them. So technically we'd be getting into their business. You see, all he's going to do is get defensive. Your best bet is to say something like, yeah, I can appreciate where you're at, honey. No problem. I'm going to take some time and watch from them. I feel like I'm learning.
I want to learn how to be a better person.
Yeah.
I know that I've contributed to where we are in our marriage, and I would like to take responsibility for that and own my part.
So
they're teaching me how to make changes.
There's a handful of ways.
Can't ever point the finger
Yeah.
at the other spouse until you've shown up differently. And even then you don't point the finger. You just let them open up and they will start to come towards the behavior that you're trying to change.
100%. I mean, if we think back, it's brilliant because if you think back to where we ever messed up, it always went back to defensiveness. And even if we start to get down a bumpy road now, it's always the same thing, guys. You ready? Oh, now it's moving in here.
Yeah. I scrolled.
Somebody said, damn, I don't know what you were talking about, but
it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think it was right when we said 17 personalities. So it might've been about that. It's right around the time.
That what we were just talking about, and this comment here, we've been together for 30 years, and until he was ready, he wouldn't even entertain the thought of getting help, listening to people. The stuff we were just talking about, and this, guys, it's stage 3. You're either in stage 3 with or without your spouse or not. This waiting for your spouse crap is what's dragging marriage down the toilet. If you are in, you are in. Like when we DM people, sometimes we can't tell if it's a guy or a girl, or sometimes we're just DMing so many people, it's so fast that we're just, oops, talking to a man, not a woman, talking to a woman, not a man, whatever. And like it just happens, right? Well, one of the reasons we're changing the site to men and women is like, if you're a man and you're ready to fix your marriage, click the man button. If you're a woman, click the woman button. If you are waiting for your spouse, you're dreaming because you're asking for what everybody told you should be the way it works.
It's not.
Are you in? Yeah, I am. Okay, me too. Really? Because if you're ready to take your responsibility, but you're still getting pointing the finger at them, or you're still getting the finger pointed at, however you want it, however it goes for each of you, Well, then you're not actually ready. So you're not going to get any worse. Then you're going to continue to blame and you're going to keep getting worse. It's going to go down and down and down this tailspin, this rabbit hole. So you're just going to have to own it. If you are the one that's reaching out, that's actually how you put it today when we were talking.
Mhm.
If you are the one that's reaching out, then you are the one
To take
Yes.
responsibility and
Yeah.
making that first step forward. It's never all of your fault. But if you are the one that's sending the messages, you're the one that wants to get help. It is now your responsibility to step out in leadership. If you're a woman, I'm sure you want your husband to step out in leadership. But if he's not doing that, you will die waiting. So you step out in leadership, you show up, you make changes, you take ownership, take responsibility, and you soften your husband's heart so that he doesn't dig his heels in when you ask him a question. You inspire him to be open about the communication and to work with you rather than against you. But if you're not showing up, your husband has no reason to trust you. You guys have been fighting, you guys have been arguing. Have you been nagging? Have you had expectations, unreasonable expectations? Whatever you think, whatever, if you think that you're not doing anything wrong, well, you're in a dream world, first of all. So there's always something that you can own. But as you do that, your husband will soften, your husband will be inspired. And the rate is about 90%. So when women make these changes, and you have to stand strong in the changes, you can't make them for a day and then go back for a day and then make them for another day. You have to stand strong. It is work, which is why my program is primarily a coaching program. Women work better in a coaching setting, I would say, than men do. So you have to be very engaged and you put in the work, you commit. And that's when you can inspire your husband to come along. And the rate is about 90%. I think it's about 90% in your program too.
It is.
But for me, 90% of husbands turn around and come with you and respond more positively. And like the reviews are just, they speak for themselves.
100%. And yeah, like it's the same for like if I'm talking to men, just whatever she said, just imagine how she was speaking to men too. It's the same thing. It just I wouldn't use words like soften or hurt because men,
women.
but
Yeah.
but
our hearts are already soft.
yeah, but even that, like I don't even just sell my course anymore. Like it's with coaching. Like there are guys who've done well with it, but most of the time it's when you're undoing years of bad training, guys. 37 years to stop yelling, and I still had work to do, and I can still get upset and have to think about it, right? Because it's only been 5 years of actively figuring it out. That's just one of the bad qualities. So all these things stacked, and you have bad training. Everybody does. We actually just watching or listening. I can't remember if it was watching or listening to something the other day. It was phenomenal, and it was talking about 95% of your programming happens by the time you're 7. Programming. So that means you actively live out 5% of your life based on your wants and desires, and unless you're aware and conscious and working towards growing your wants and desires and actually achieving them, typically you might even lose 95% and go higher into like 97% programming. What's the programming?
Toxic things from the things that happened from when you were born until you were 7 years old.
That's the top programming. And then it starts to, you're like, say your computer, you're reprogramming things as you go. So you can program the toxic things you learned, the mistakes that that's why we also throw out stuff about kids and parenting and what habits you want to do. I don't do a ton for my stuff. I know you do a lot of it. It's because it matters to us so much, because like when we understood the damage, the narcissistic traits, my narcissism based off the way I was treated by my family.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got worse by the way because that's what paved the next 2 decades. That's why I chose the people I chose. I was the way that I was. I was a nice guy filled with rage. And like, fuck, man, I got to undo all of that. And yes, you might not be as bad, but then what's your fucking excuse? If I'm being straight, because
if he could do it and if I can do it, I mean, he had a lot of childhood trauma. I didn't have that level. I had a pretty good upbringing.
This is
but I still had really bad things come out of me, in our marriage and previous relationships too. But he had a really bad upbringing. So if he had the negative programming until he was 7 and then continued negative programming, I mean, it's not as bad as it can get, but it was pretty bad.
Oh, this is
I think it was horrible.
I say it was as bad as it could get, other than I didn't actually directly punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So
I meant your upbringing.
So
your treatment.
Yeah.
So if he can come back from that and seeing that what he was built into was a very narcissistic person. And sometimes I forget, like I have to think back because people will say, well, there's no way he was a narcissist. He's a narcissist. And I'm like, well, we don't know. Like I looked up the DSM multiple times to say like, well, maybe he's not. And we don't know for sure. But when I think back,
when you add up all the traits and how bad they were,
and when you look at the DSM, you look, it's like check, checks them all off. But what was I going to say with that?
I don't know.
Lost my train of thoughts twice tonight. You once me.
Well, that's because we're a team.
That's right. Together we are one full person.
That's right. So that brings me to a point, and I just want to emphasize, I kind of just mentioned a minute ago, but I'll actually get messages. I was just looking for a text. Yeah, somebody messaged on my website today and was like, well, I'd like to know more information about the program. I don't know if it'll help me because I'm not a narcissist. Hey, listen, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. The point is, then what's your fucking problem? Seriously, I know I just said
I think that's
like,
what
I
I
want
was
to see
saying.
it again.
Your treatment turned you very narcissistic. Not everybody is extremely narcissistic.
So
if he can
great,
make
you
the
should be able to
change,
get your wife right now. What's the problem?
Yeah, if he can make the change, literally anybody can do it. And yeah, like if you think you need to leave your husband, I did multiple times, but I'm here. We made it work. That's why we're trying to tell the world our story.
Yeah, it's
because you're wonderful now.
Thanks, baby.
Yeah, love you.
You have to own it, and I want to talk about that quick. I decided, talking to a good friend of mine, ownership, I'm done with it. I think I made a post about it tonight. I'm done with it because unless you're going to use ownership, like I'm going to own me, which is the extreme ownership mentality. It's being bastardized now because they're talking about you. Well, I'm sure this is for women stuff too, but I'm talking about the male alpha programs, beat your chest, superior men options that are out there and blah, blah, blah. Even some toxic masculinity shit. Not as much, but even we're still talking about ownership. Hey, unless you're owning, yes, you as a person, but also your commitment, the goals that you had together, the dreams that you did want to achieve, you decided to be parents. Are you owning the fact that you're going to set them up for failure by set them up, not necessarily they'll fail, but lead by example with getting a divorce, like not learning how to communicate, just like the stuff we talked about earlier, even if there's some abusive stuff going on, like, listen, if you're staying, right? Like, so at the end of the day, I think ownership has been bastardized and it's been twisted so badly that it's now gone back to just focused on me so much that this is where it starts to become toxic, right? And I've seen this too, like guys in my program, well, wife's a little bit harder on him, maybe, still bringing up stuff from years ago. And I'm talking bad shit. So like, he shouldn't feel bad, right? Like, he should feel bad. He shouldn't be like, what the fuck, I'm a brand new person, blah, blah, blah. This is what ownership is being twisted into. I'm so great. Now I am a 10. So unless you're owning everything, including how much you love your spouse, every dream you guys ever went to achieve, and yet you didn't either. You can't blame them for that because no matter what, we want to move to Texas. We haven't moved there yet. Hey, man, I could have made that happen at any point. I blew a lot of money on a lot of different things. Well, I could have hired the immigration lawyer for the amount of money I've blown in my life. So that's a good example of how a lot of men would be like, well, it's her fault. She's not with me. I don't know. She doesn't want to go. No, you inspire, lead, ask, boundaries. So ownership is doing that. So instead, I want you guys to take accountability. Take accountability for yourself. Hold yourself accountable. If you can't, you get somebody like us who has tools and systems in place so that you don't mess it up, so that you aren't just doing part of the work and missing all the steps, right? Whatever your method is, even if it's a good friend. I was interviewed on a podcast the other day. The guy's been married for 40 years, 45, I think it's 40 years. You can just tell he just loves his wife. He thinks a little bit different than me, but like in general, like
it's a sign language for think.
In my world, I don't know if it is.
I know it's not.
So, and during that podcast interview, I was like, well, dude, I mean, even you are better. Not saying even like a bad thing, but just because he doesn't do marriage advice, but he can. 40 years married, he's been through the thick of it. Like, come on, this isn't normal. That's a better person to hold you accountable than your buddy sitting on the couch complaining or drinking. Just saying.
Whitepicketfenceproject.com, Kimberly. whitepicketfenceproject.com.
I think it was Kimberly earlier who mentioned, it wasn't going well, or he did a lot of things wrong, or whatever, and now you cheated on him. So now
No, that
it's
was somebody else.
that was somebody else. Okay, sorry then. Just wanted to say it is never too late. Nobody should live in their mistakes ever. And every man that I've worked with whose wife had an affair, he doesn't even think about the affair, the betrayal, nothing when they are back on. Now we have different ways of thinking about that stuff. We don't condone affairs, obviously. We don't, but betrayal. There's so many different things that break trust, no integrity, no respect. You can see how this starts to become a big mess. Oh, I thought you were saying something. So the bottom line is you don't have to sit in your pain. It's not about like that would be like a victim mentality. Like, so now it's hopeless because I had an affair. Hey, listen, I said, I put that out there. Someone who was live or on one of the reels, I was like, listen, I said to Catherine over and over again, if I screwed up so bad that it's over, I just need to know. Right. But at the end of the day, you still got to show up. And if you do show up, then even if you made a mistake, the only way is if you do everything you can to be the right person. That's it. Everybody makes mistakes. There's never one person. That's not the point. The point is they can only control you. Okay. Is your husband in prison considered divorce?
No. Divorce is considered divorce.
Yeah.
So you can definitely divorce him while he's in prison. I think, I don't know if I would like to know the context of that question, but unless you're divorced, the answer is no, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I kind of squinted. I was wondering if she meant like, is that okay to get divorced? Because maybe she knows that we really value like whatever the mistake is, you can probably get through it. You signed up for it, and
right.
you should try. But that's so contextual and
Yeah,
individual. Like
we have no idea what the context is there, so we can't really speak to that.
And even though we mentor and we put you through a process, like a lot of it is still going to be your decision-making process. The goal is not to have you have like sessions with us for the rest of your life. That's called therapy, guys. They do that. They scatter it out over 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe every week, but see you here, try a little of this or whatever. No, we want you to learn and go live your life. In fact, do that, then go inspire and lead other people. That makes more sense to us, or else we can't achieve our main purpose, which is to like revolutionize marriage, flip the divorce statistics, 30 and 70 the other way, So, yeah, we'd have to know more. And where can I sign up? Just go to ryancasmorrow.com.
I said that was
Oh.
Kimberly, right? Whitepicketfenceproject.com.
Oh, yeah.
I sent to her.
I was just trying to keep it easy for Facebook since it's going on my page, but ryancasmorrow.com, there's a man, there's a woman tab. I put some of our articles up there that I'm just trying to gather them all. And, some of the lives that you might not see, or interviews that we don't get everything out to everybody, or they're slowly coming out. So that's all there for you. Plus, then you can pick men go to men, women go to women. Somebody said they appreciated me earlier. I don't know who that was, but it's a Facebook name user, but thank you. Oh, damn.
That was
17 personalities.
He didn't actually have 17, but there were a few things that were going on that made me think that he was a couple of different people.
Yeah, guys, like I was medicated for cyclothymia, which is like, Robin Williams is bipolar up here and then depressed down here. I was like this little thing here, like an amplified by the anger. Like we didn't even think to get into narcissistic stuff because you were afraid. Yeah,
Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
So
was medicated, not anymore.
Yeah. So we had some pretty major stuff go on. And so I, at one point, said, okay, if you don't go get help, I can't stay married to you. And this was because there were the multiple personalities, which he doesn't have multiple personalities, but it sure seemed like he did.
Well, first of all, so my brain works like I can think 7 steps ahead, which is why it's very uncommon for me to lose my thought. Or if I'm on the 7th, occasionally, if I'm talking, I can lose that thought. So we would joke about it, but literally, like I was happy, then mad, then like
and he had cognitive distortions.
Yeah.
So he would say something and then say he didn't, or he would say I said something that I didn't say, and it was just, I didn't know how to understand it. I wasn't into psychology at the time. We had just gotten married, and so a couple of years in, I said, if you don't go get help, I have to leave. I didn't know what was going on. 6 months into our marriage, we separated, and I sent my parents an email, and I said, I think he's a sociopath. And he's very narcissistic, and it was a big long email. And I opened it with, you better sit down. This is what I'm going through. And then, I went back to him, and the cycle continued. And I said, okay, you actually have to get help. You have to make some admission of guilt here. And I was going to leave and I was serious. And so he said, okay, we'll go. So we went, I said, we have to see a doctor. Like, I want to see a doctor. There's something is wrong. We're not going to any more counseling, a doctor. So we went to our family doctor and he diagnosed him with cyclothymia, which is a mild form of bipolar. So like he said, instead of having the high and low lows, it's lots of highs and lows, but not as manic and not as depressive as actual
So I
bipolar.
wasn't going to kill myself, and then I wasn't also way at the top, right?
Yeah. So just very unstable moods, and was diagnosed with like a common antipsychotic that people use for that kind of stuff. So the doctor also referred us, because I thought he had borderline personality disorder, which is in the same cluster as narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder. So the doctor sent us for a referral. It took a while to get to the referral of a psychiatrist, because a psychiatrist can diagnose. And so because time went by between the doctor and the psychiatrist, he had hidden a lot of that again. So we went into the psychiatrist. He was getting better, and he was trying to be more mindful, and he was taking this medication, which really sedated you. Like, we're happy that he's not on that anymore. But the psychiatrist, because he didn't get all the information, because I was too scared to be completely honest with the doctor, and you also weren't completely honest.
Well, I was still trying to figure it all out too, right?
Yeah, so it was a scary situation. So the doctor didn't diagnose him with anything. He said, no, you have very strong cluster B traits. So cluster B is narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. There's 3 different types of personality disorders. There's cluster A, cluster B, and cluster C. Everybody associates with one of them. I also associate with cluster B. So the same ones, it's just that my traits are not as high. So you can have the traits and have them not be dangerous, toxic, evil, unsafe. Although, everybody can be pushed to that limit as well. But anyway, so he said, with mindfulness, you can overcome some of this stuff. And so you did overcome a lot of it. And it took a lot of work to be able to change those traits. And we've been thinking about trying to get a referral again, because now he's very self-aware. So he's aware of, the thinking, when your thinking is, like if you're getting jealous of something, or if you're thinking like, it's not actually reality. And it's not like his reality is super twisted, because you're very aware. But do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like if I say something, he doesn't necessarily have the cognitive distortion take over. He's like, oh, that's probably not what she said.
Yeah. And so you can get some clarification. Like, you have to develop some skills to be able to handle this sort of stuff. So, if you are a person that, first of all, if you have, almost everybody has, let's just call them bad traits and qualities. Okay.
Everybody.
I'm going to say almost everybody, because maybe somebody's they've nailed it.
But Jesus came back already.
So you know what? You're right. Everybody, you watching, everybody
has negative traits. If you don't, so then maybe you need to see that psychiatrist also.
Here's the thing. If you learn the new skills, that's why I break it down, because I talk to men. That's why I'm actually speaking to men. I know that women are following on Facebook, but I'm speaking to men, and I'm saying, like, if you develop habits and skills, why do I say that? Because the most successful business people, all of those guys that I've learned from anyways, that are men, like, they're saying habits and skills. So it's a big thing. I'm going to just break it down simple: habits and skills, right? And take it further. Then when you learn those, so I inspired her to get angry and yell back. I remember telling my guys this week, I was like, hey, it was Catherine's turn. Was it as bad? Well, a lot of ways it was bad for me. That's why. It's not the same. I didn't need to get a restraining order, but the end of the day, when you change you because you want to, and don't bastardize this on me. Okay, well, they don't want to. It's not like, I've been trying for 30 years, 10 years, 5 years. It's never going to happen. Bullshit. I call bullshit, because now we lead each other. This man must be the leader in the house. Well, she'll say I'm the leader in the house. But today I walked in and go, hey, I could use your advice on something. That's fucking leading, right? I just asked for the leadership in that instance, but she does it all the time, just like I do it for her all the time. So you just own it. And then when you learn those habits and skills, your new habits become your partner's new habits. It's just usually you don't follow through and develop the habit long enough. That's what I had to learn. Okay. So was I like that before I got married? Was there a switch once I got married?
We
Listen,
got married too quickly
yeah, it
to
was
know that.
30 days in, we were married. So, that's why our honeymoon phase overlaps differently because it was like, it was a wicked 30 days. We'd had a good rip roaring fight, I think, too.
Not rip roaring.
Not like the normal, like,
we had like little
yeah.
fights, yeah.
But then it was, I mean, within 6 months, it was brutal. I mean, and was I like that before?
Within 6 weeks after getting married. It
Oh,
was
6 weeks. Sorry, I said say 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, was I like that before we got married? Yes, absolutely. Why do you think I say in my reels, like when I'm talking about justifying bad behavior? Your parents, we talked about programming earlier, right? My parents paved the next 2 decades of my life. 37 was when I tried to make a clear, decisive decision to actually let go of anger. I've been through tons of anger management, like a 16-week program, like 2 years prior, right? Like it just the amount of books I read. And I was always coming to Catherine going, oh, this is hitting the jackpot. Like, no, 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 no. It's like everybody tells you how it works. They're wrong. That's just what the court appoints. Anger management, your therapist appoints. Anger management. Nope. If that worked, then we wouldn't have all these freaking angry people everywhere. Okay. Anyways, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. I'm just saying, stacking up all these society solutions that don't work. And I'm, as you know, big into society's lies. It's what I call like auto turnoffs. Society's lies for a man how to be, and it automatically turns his wife off. It's just a thing for me.
Side note, I checked myself into anger management a few years into our marriage because I was acting so out of character and I scared myself, let alone probably scared the daylights out of you. But I was like, I'm going to anger management. I don't even know myself anymore. And I checked myself into a program.
I think you said that a lot, actually. And so we talk about inspiring and leading, right? Even just Catherine saying those words to me back then all the time at the simultaneous time. So I did something the other day that was like, you can be in the worst season of your marriage while simultaneously knowing where you want to go in your marriage. You can. You just need to know how. And that you talk about inspiring, like between me having to make changes, not wanting to lose, focused on where I wanted to go, and Catherine saying things like that. I'm not proud of who I heard that from my aunt, I think the most, and my dad and my mom growing up a lot. You got to make sure you can look at, well, now that I went there, like I don't speak to any of them. They're terrible people. They treated me terribly. Lots of lies, lots of bullshit, lots of animosity, gossip, you name it. Negative shit that gets you nowhere in life. So I don't speak to them. Well, there's another one that you inspired me to get away from, right? So you see how easy it is when you start focusing on who you want to be. You actually believe. So we'll call that integrity. Can you actually look at yourself in the mirror? We're doing a parenting course right now because the hardest time that we have with our like not saying the most inappropriate things or anything like that is with our children, right? Trying to you're not supposed to feel that way right now, like because we're panicking because we don't know why. So we're taking a parenting course right now, right? Well, if you don't have the skills, you don't have the skills. Right?
Yeah, just there's no shame in saying that you need to get better at something. And in fact, it's very honorable to go and try to fix things and to say, you know what, I'm not perfect at this. So, I will take parenting courses and workshops for the rest of my life, probably. Well, not for the rest of my life, but for a very long time. And I will be working on myself for my marriage for the rest of my life.
I will say it's not work. Like we're into more fun stuff now. But it's
growing
and stuff that
development.
The more that we learn, because we love helping people. So the more that we learn, it's just more exciting. Before, for me, I won't speak for Catherine, but for me, I was scrambling to try to learn. But now it's just exciting. I've got one of the next courses I'm going to take is the author of a book that I integrated into my course a lot, and I coach a lot around it. Not certified by him, just understand it. It's very important to me, and so I'm getting certified by this guy to bring into my program. But it's like that's every Sunday for 3 hours. I add another hour on the calendar for 6 or 8 weeks or whatever it is. I don't know. It's booked in. And it's like, but I'm so excited. Where back when I read that book, I was like scrambling for the knowledge. So it's totally different, right? You get a little bit more into it. Because it means something different when you're doing whatever you're doing for your passion, for your, let's say your business, your purpose, whatever. And of course, the marriage is this is our passion. Yeah. It should be yours too, no matter how much success you want in a life. Like you're not talking to your job or your business. I'm sure we'll talk with you. We're not talking to the job. You're not going on dates with your job. Oh yeah, you might expense some meals. It's not the same thing. You're certainly not doing it with your job. Not gonna retire with your job. But you gotta get your priorities straight. I just did some content on that too. I need advice. A man cheated with a co-signed.
The man I
Oh.
cheated with co-signed for me to buy a new car. Now my husband wants me to stop making the payments but still drive the car. Well, it will get repossessed. So
Yeah.
So if you make a payment, so there's not really much advice we can give here aside from if you stop making the payments, the man that co-signed for you, he might make the payments to keep his credit okay, but then he's probably going to come for the car and sell it. If you stop making the payments and the man doesn't care about his credit, then they will come and repossess the car. And you're saying if you make a payment, then he'll file for divorce. So I think that if you want your if you want your marriage to, I said I was going to give advice, but I changed my mind. If you want your marriage, then you need to get rid of this car. It's just a car.
Seriously.
So stop making the payments. Somebody's going to come for it. Either the man that you cheated with is going to come for it. Okay, go ahead, come take it. Or the repo lady is going to come for it.
Well,
So, or you can make the payment and you can lose your husband. What's more important to you, the car or your husband?
you saw the repo lady. I just would have never heard the repo lady. I know. When we lost everything during COVID, I had a repo guy, 2 guys actually, but no repo ladies.
Yeah.
But I would like to add to that too. Like things are just things. Speaking of us losing everything, that's when we started to really figure shit out.
Like
Right?
we lost
everything, guys. We were doing we were very successful and we lost everything overnight. We weren't even working. She was about to go back to work after the twins, and I was like,
Yeah, we were
10
pretty
hours
much
a week.
semi-retired.
I was actually
and
school. I was doing school.
we were
you know?
living the life.
Yeah.
And then
And so this is just things. And so even here's another example of just things. Like guys, I don't know why. It's not my favorite thing, but of course I'm going to help. But guys come to me after their wife separates from
3-minute warning.
or after she moves out of the house. Thank you, baby. Or after the divorce papers come in. Happens all the time. I don't know why guys wait. Don't know why. But anyway, I can say that confidently because someone been following me for months. Okay, that's what I hear on the call. Anyways, a lot of times these guys are already buying a house. So maybe those guys just found me. Okay, so they're just buying a second house. I'm like, well, we're nowhere near trying to show her that you're a new guy. So buy the fucking house. It's just a house. Worst that happens is you have a rental property. Like if you're at that stage, it's just a thing. It's just a thing. You're not going to convince her to come home with or without the house. You have to convince her by showing up, vice versa. If your husband, this is upsetting him, it's a constant reminder. So duh.
Yeah.
Like duh. It's a constant reminder of the betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to save your marriage, then yes, I would advise to. I don't
Stop
care.
making the payments.
I'd crash it into the thing and just
Well, don't crash it. Just go give it back to the guy that bought it.
yes. Anyway, seriously.
Last thing. So nobody commented on the ball of cuteness that's sitting on my lap.
Oh yeah, you guys. What are you guys?
You guys do not have a soul. And by the way, we weren't on last week because we had to put one of our dogs down last Wednesday.
Oh, I just assumed it was sick. I wasn't putting the days together. My bad earlier.
Yeah,
I said that.
I was not doing very well. And this little guy is her brother. So we lost Lady, didn't we? Yeah, we did.
He's lonely. He's lonely, this guy.
Oh, last comment, but
yeah, okay, so listen, if he knows it, it's time to introduce, like we talked about earlier. Like, I am the guy with anger. Like, so I mean, the best you could do is put something out there. When you start throwing things like ADHD and stuff in there, guys, I just told you I think 7 thoughts ahead. This has been a thing for me as long as I can remember. I've never been diagnosed for that shit either, but like, come on. You just have to learn the skills. People are always down to get medicated, right? So people with anger get medicated too. They just get it clustered into something else, diagnosed with something else instead, like me, right? Well, no, I actually just needed to learn some skills. I'm not saying you wouldn't need medication. We had to test the waters when I went off pills and stuff like that, but you got to do whatever you can to either work with Catherine if his anger is getting a hold of him, which happens a lot, but this is no reason why a woman couldn't work with Catherine, or you're going to have to, while he's listening and or put him in his lives, or when he's ready and available saying, I don't want to lose you, then, you just go, okay, well, this is what I need you to do. Call this guy. There's lots of different ways, but the point is you have to be ready to do it. You have to be ready to
Rip off
take
the
a step.
Band-Aid.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, I never say this on comments on the social media, but I will tell you this. I've thought about it like thousands of times. I'll see men and women go back and forth. I don't even know if they know each other. I'm assuming not. And like, I just always want to be like, dude, like you're literally just wasting your time, or man, you're literally just wasting your time. Like if you want to just complain here, it's no different than those other avenues we were talking about earlier. Okay. All right. With that being said, we're going to go, but with that being said, if you need to, this is the comment that I'm refraining myself from saying all the time. So I'm a little bit hesitant, but if you need to, like, this is when the hard truth comes in. Again, go back to all those men that finally book an appointment after their wife is leaving. Like, you might have to say, this isn't changing. This isn't going anywhere. But be careful when you do that. Because if you're not actually in a position to inspire, maybe you need the one, or you're the one that needs help. And I mean man or woman, right? Maybe you're the one that needs help. Okay? Because you both actually do. Everybody needs it.
Even if we have coaches and we have roles, and we are continually growing and trying to be better. We're just not in the depths of hell anymore.
Yeah,
but if you are, then you have a lot of climbing out to do. And then even when you get out, it's constantly growing, constantly learning, trying to be better for yourself, for your husband, for your children, for everybody in the world. But anyway, we are ready to go now.
Okay.
Say
Well, you guys have a great night.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.